we got an 03 Camry. It's heading for 500,000 miles. It's got 438 now, and guess what? He's the original owner of the car, and he works for Toyota, and the factory's there. Now the question may be, oh, it must be one of those Japanese-made ones. No, it was made in Kentucky. He even worked in that factory. Now it's the larger engine, it's the V6, showing that the V6 is the force. They can both last a really long time. We'll look under the hood, and as we do, hey look, the lift even still works. It's not falling down. The original engine, now he's put on about 3 timing belts. They're rubber timing belts, but it is the 3000cc engine, which is non-interference, so if it broke, it wouldn't really damage anything. He's been through a couple alternators, he's changed the valve cover gaskets on it, but it's still the original engine and the original transmission. Now, for most of its life, it didn't burn any oil, but now it burns a little bit of oil. It burns about a quart every 3,000 miles, and it's got 438,000 miles on it. So that tells you they knew how to build these things. Longevity is what you want. This is the kind of vehicle that you want. And to top it all off, it's pretty strongly built because his daughter smashed both the front, back, typical child, but it was put back together and it's still rolling down the road. I mean, check out those alloy wheels. They're still in pretty good shape. As we look inside, this was an XLE, so it's got leather seats, and sure, they're faded and cracked a little. Especially the center ones, you can see he's put tape on it. That's just something that wears out on these. The back seats are still in pretty good shape. Got a few cracks and stuff, but hey, they're still there. They're still pretty comfortable. The wood is still in pretty good shape. Let's see if it starts. Starts right up. Now the check engine light's been on a little while. He said it runs okay. We're going to check all that, but you can see it really has 438,092 miles on it. Still transmission, original engine, still shifts pretty good. And of course, since it's old, we got dinosaur land. He even has a tape in the tape deck. Doesn't say what it is. But the AC, of course, all that stuff still works. And the steering wheel's wear, so you put a little cover that he likes on it. I would have done a leather one and laced it up. Like I did on the Matrix. Check it out, we'll put it in gear. Almost 500,000 miles. It still doesn't shake at all. Key turned on, so the idiot lights are on, and away we go. Now this is a 21-year-old car, so the computer is going to be a bit slower than the modern ones. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. That's a Camry 03 1MZ engine V6 made in Kentucky, 4-speed. Here we go. Oh, they can do a basic topology scan, so away the scan goes. So it's slow. We'll see, it's taking a while. Got a whole bunch of codes. It's old. But it runs perfectly fine, so we'll see what these crazy codes are. First, we'll start with the airbag system. I'd never expect them to work on something this old anyway. Driver squib circuit short, so, you know, the driver's side airbag isn't going to work, so keep your seatbelts on strong. So let's go to the main codes, the ECM, of which there are 14 codes. Let's see what they are. 14 of them. It's kind of a record for a Toyota. Below threshold, evap system, catalytic efficiency below threshold, evap. They're all the same codes, so it's not like there's 14 of them. They're just the same codes that keep repeating themselves. Now, since it's got 438,000 miles on it, that doesn't surprise me that the catalytic converter is inefficient, but if you look, you'll see on the windshield, there are no inspections because they don't do inspections in this state for it. So, as I tell people with these goofy evap codes and catalytic converter inefficiency, if the car runs okay, your temperature gauge stays normally in the middle, the engine accelerates fine, he drove 70 miles an hour coming here, the car runs fine, you can just ignore it. But if you live in those states that do emissions inspections, voila, you're going to spend money fixing all that stuff. Well, let's look at some live data. We'll start her up. Go to live data. Black is good, red is bad. La-dee-da-dee-da. Short-term fuel trim 1.53. It's adding a little fuel. It's running a little bit lean. You could probably put cleaner in it. When they're this old, a lot of times the injectors won't spray just enough fuel, but of course, it's going to get better gas mileage this way, so if it runs okay, a lot of guys will just leave it alone. Now, that can make the cat running kind of inefficiency. That could trip the code too, but it runs okay. So you're not going to mess with something like this, or something that's almost got 500,000 miles and runs perfectly fine. Sensors normal. Fuel trim, I mean, look at that. 99.16. 100 is perfect, so it's only off 84/100ths of a percent. That's not much. Trim, Bang 2 sensor 1.01. 1 is perfect. Hey, you can't complain. Oh, now it's another 100th off. That's 0. All the data is in black. So far, none of it's red. Let's just whip through it all. Nope, it's all good. For a ride, no backup camera, just a CD changer and a tape deck. So back we go. For idling smooth as silk. Even though it's got almost 500,000 miles on it. Yeah, sometimes these things are unbelievable. Let's see how it shifts. You can't feel it shift. You can hear it shift, the noise as the RPMs go down, but you can't even feel it shift. Now, these older ones do tend to float a little, and this is totally normal, you know. It's got a nice smooth ride. Not the tightest cornering vehicle on earth, but they're very smooth too, even with almost 500,000 miles on them. Of course, the brakes, they're working perfectly fine. No grinding, no pulling, no noise. The ABS system still works. Nobody's coming down Tobacco Road, so here we go. No problem climbing up hills. No, I'm not going to push it with a car that's got almost 500,000 miles. So rather than the usual drag strip here, we'll just slow down a little. Nobody's coming. And now we'll take off. Passing gear, look at that. It downshifted fine, smooth, let go, no clunks, no bumps. Yeah, they knew how to make them in Kentucky when they were putting these babies together. You want to pass someone, we're doing 38, floor it, and the acceleration is decent. For an old car with almost 500,000 miles, no smokes coming out the back, no horrible clanking noises, just keeps moving. A nice, smooth cruising machine with almost 500,000 miles on it. I mean, you can't complain. Boring? Well, to some people, maybe that's boring. All the other car companies wish they were this boring when it came to lasting this long and having happy customers. Check engine light came back on because it says the catalytic converter is inefficient. Oh, well, I can't tell it driving it. It's driving fine. Still one smooth machine. Oh, I can't find anything that still doesn't work. Everything works. Turn signals, headlights, horn, sunroof, AC, radio, tape deck, even a compass that's built into the rearview mirror. Looks like they're expanding Outlaw Field, the airport, so if any of you want to visit me in Clarksville and has a plane, feel free to fly on down. It's just behind our house, and you can take me for a ride. I'll buy you lunch. So there you have it, almost 500,000 miles. He's the original owner. His daughter smashed it up. It's still going that good. Even he's amazed that the tranny's still going. I mean, these things were solid made. They don't have all the insane technology that the modern ones do. And of course, they're getting rid of the V6s. They're putting in turbo 4s, or in the case of Camrys, the only thing they make now in the United States are hybrids. Yeah, they get 51 miles a gallon, but it's extremely complex technology. This thing is simple. He's done all the repairs, doesn't cost much money, still runs perfectly fine, burns, a quart of oil maybe every 3,000-4,000 miles. That is nothing. You're supposed to change it then anyways. So you can't beat one of these things with a stick. You can. In this case, it was smashed front and back, but it's still going like a clock down the road. I mean, this would have even turned my grandfather, who hated foreign cars, he was a Buick man, if he saw this thing, he would stop rolling in his grave over what happened to society and say, okay, they knew what they were doing when they built this thing. It's a 2009 Fit, original owner. They don't sell them anymore in the United States. Why? What went wrong? They still sell them in the rest of the world. They sold millions and millions of these things, except in the rest of the world, they don't call it a Honda Fit. They call it a Honda Jazz. Ooh, you gotta be jazzy there. American Jazz, Japanese car. Who knows what they were thinking? Now, in 2020, they stopped selling them in the United States. Why? Were they terrible engines? No. Terrible transmissions? No. They had one big flaw. They weren't big enough for Americans. They want everything super sized. Because take the Honda Fit, well, it's even smaller than the Toyota Matrix, and Toyota got rid of them for the same reason. They're just not big enough. Well, for most people, especially if you don't have 800 kids, they're plenty big enough. The main reason is, as I said many times, car manufacturers are not in the business of making cars. Might sound crazy, but think about it. They're in the business of making money. Take the Matrixes. They're all made in Cambridge, Ontario. What do they make now there? Lexuses. Guess how much more money they make selling the Lexuses, right? It's a money thing. There's nothing wrong with these vehicles. We look under the hood with a barking dog. They hear a noise, they bark. We got a Honda 4-cylinder iVTEC 1.5 liter engine that's plenty big enough for this little car. This is an '09, so it's presently 15 years old. Doesn't burn oil. It also has a real automatic transmission, not a CVT. That might be worrying a little. We're gonna check that out with the computer as time goes on, but it still goes pretty good. Gets like 35 miles a gallon on the highway. The paint's still pretty good, especially this, but that's because it got wrecked last year. And you can see the new shiny headlight. And then we go to the original one. Isn't so shiny anymore. He's gonna get polishing, can't polish it up. The paint's still good on this side. Maybe a small car, but it's a 4-door, and he's got seat covers on. The seats wear, of course. Now there's a giveaway here. There's change, so we know he's an old man like me. There it goes. Typical Honda, starts right up, and it's got actual parking brake, unlike the new electronic ones. I like that. And as you can see, it just passed 100,000 miles. 100,132. Added the Android and the dash cam. There's the dash cam. And you can see the tire pressure monitoring system has the light on well. Something's 15 years old. I'm sure the batteries are dead and the senders on the tires. Who cares? Get a tire gauge. They cost 10 bucks. On the fashion, everything works. The AC's blowing freezing cold. The defrost works. And I like this. Look. Manual recirc fresh. Don't have to worry about a motor braking. You use your finger and it lasts forever. 15 years old, 100,000 miles, doesn't burn oil. Still, hey, it's been a really good vehicle. Like I say, these things don't really have problems. The problem is it wasn't big enough. But really, look around. It's a pretty optimal use of space. There's enough room in the back seats. There's plenty of headroom here. Look. It's a long way from the top of my head. I'm an average sized guy. That's front wheel drive. That's perfectly fine. You really don't need all wheel drive. Small car front wheel drive. Snow tires in the winter are fine. The LI wheels are still in really good shape. And anyways, why would he need snow tires? He lives in Florida. Yeah, what y'all tell? Oh, it's recording me. Isn't that nice? So's the camera. Let's do a diagnostics here. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. Read the VIN. That was fast. Slower than normal because it's an old car, but it'll read it. Old cars just have slower processors. But it can still do a typology scan. So here we go. And while it's doing it, we'll look around. Look. They even made the plastic better than they used to. Look, there's no cracks in it, even though it's 15 years old. Sure, the armrest has a little wear, but I mean, really. Got a really nice setup. Speedometer in front of you, tachometer over there, gauge and warning lights. Hey, it's a nicely set up car. Nice little steering wheel. You put his little cover on it. As we see, it only has 3 DTCs, but they are all the tire pressure monitoring system. So just for giggles, we'll see what it says. Low air pressure, signal failure, signal failure. Exactly what I predicted, as I said over and over again. The tire pressure monitoring system, each tire has a tire stem. That's the valve stem that the air goes in. Inside there, there's a battery, sends information to the computer to tell you if your tires are low. Guess what? After so many years, the batteries go dead. Are they replaceable batteries? Of course not. So you have to take all tires apart, replace them all. Costs a whole bunch of money. Tire pressure gauge costs nothing, so we don't care. So we'll start her up. And we'll go back to live data. We'll go to the PCM. Here comes the live data as usual. Black is good, red is bad. Everything look good so far. The sensors look good. Okay, now here's the air fuel lambda. 1.00 is perfect. There's perfect now. Oh, now it's off by 1/100th. Yes, Hondas do last that long and run that good. If you saw the video that I made recently, the guy brought a Honda Civic that had 368,000 miles on it, and it was pretty much the same as this, and that's 268,000 more miles than this. So they could go a long way. We'll keep looking, see if anything else is weird. No, not really. Alternate current, 14.5 volts, that's fine. Even gives you the fuel injector millisecond firing. It even tells you the fuel cap is closed. If it's leaking and it show open, you know, you'd have to either change it or buy another one if you forgot and left it at the last gas station. The misfire is zeros across the board. 0, 0, 0. Even the B misfires, they're all 0 too. Typical for Honda. I mean, 100,000 miles on one of these, it's like, maybe it's not even broken in yet. We'll take it for a little spin. As you can see, he's added the backup camera. They didn't come with them back then, and it's working perfectly fine. Nice smooth idle too, not shaking or anything. Look at those shifts. Smooth as can be. even though it's a tiny little car. Now, these things always did handle quite well because they're kind of a small, short wheelbase, and they are Hondas. Now, another reason they were never big in the United States, aside from being small, is that they do tend to ride a little rough. Just like my Toyota Matrix, it rides relatively roughly over bumps because it is a very short wheel vehicle and it's made for zipping around, not for, you know, cross country, really smooth rides. These are pretty much made for cities originally, but you can take them wherever you want. It's just that they're not going to be all that comfortable going over bumps. And Americans, they want to be riding on a couch when they're on the road, so it's probably another reason I don't sell them here anymore. That's a typical Honda with a little engine. You're going to rev the engine a little when you take off. And of course, the brakes work perfectly fine. Honda knows how to make brakes. Nobody's coming, so here we go. And they are fun to drive in the twisties. Being relatively low to the ground in a small car, you can really zip around on these things. We will come to a stop, and it won't be like that race car that just went by, but it'll move. Here we go. They make a lot of noise, yeah, but it shifts fine, runs perfectly fine, got plenty enough to get you around in. Not a race car, but hey, it's not a dog either. Look, we're doing 40, you step on it to pass people on the highway, it picks up. Not a race car, but you can pass people easy enough. For a small car, it's not too noisy. Now, the newer cars are bigger and a lot quieter inside. There's no arguing that, but it's not bad. Being passed by everyone. I'm actually going 5 miles over the speed limit. I'll show you how people drive on this road. So now we'll turn around here. They turn around real easy. They got a nice small turning circle. I'll give them that. They're easy to park. It does have a little wind noise, but that's because they put that crazy mirror on top of the mirror. They were not built that way, but he's an old guy, and old guys like having lots of mirrors. You see over there's one on the other side too. I can hear a little whistling, but hey, all in all, it's just kind of a fun little car for driving around in. Not big enough for most Americans, but it's certainly big enough for me. What do I think of this thing? Well, Americans want big, giant things. This wasn't big enough. But if you're looking for a vehicle like this, the Honda quality in these things is so much better than Kia, Hyundai, Nissan that make some pretty crappy little cars. These are solid built little cars. There's no arguing that. This one's standing the test of time. Hey, of course, I lived in Florida, so you don't get the rust that you get on the East Coast where the undercarriage will be all rotten away. You can find a car like this. My advice is scoop it up. With 100,000 miles, and the Civic that I did a few weeks ago, I had 360, and it was still running about as good as this. That tells you they can last a long time. They don't burn oil. Now, this is an older one. It's got actual automatic transmission. Doesn't have GDI fuel injection. Doesn't have a turbocharger. And you know what that means? That means it's going to last a lot longer. Here's an 07 Honda Accord. Guy just bought it for $4 grand. Let's see if he got a good deal, if he got ripped off, and you'll see what you get if you buy one of these used. Now, one big reason that you might want to buy an older car like this is because of what's under the hood. This is a 2.4 liter double overhead cam, low emissions vehicle, intelligent VTEC, nice size, 4-cylinder engine. It's not turbo, it's not GDI. Now it gets over 30 miles a gallon on the highway, but they last. This doesn't burn oil. This is not a problem engine like some of the later model Hondas where they have oil dilution. This is not GDI, so there's no extra injector pressure. This is not turbo, so there's no extra pressure. These things are made to last and last and last. Unlike the modern ones, they have all that technology and they have problems with them. So, unlike the new Hondas where they had to recall like 720,000 of them because the fuel pumps might leak because they have GDI high pressure fuel pumps, well, guess what? This has got a low pressure fuel pump. It's inside the gas tank. I've been working on cars for 57 years. You know how many fuel pumps that I've changed where the fuel pump is inside the gas tank on Hondas? None. I've never seen one go bad, right? And even if it leaked a little, it would be leaking inside the gas tank. Gasoline leaking in gasoline, right? No problem. Not a GDI that if it leaks on top of the engine, you're going to start a fire. They were simpler. They were better made in those days. Does it have one of those horrible CVT transmissions? No. It is a regular, geared, automatic transmission. Now this car's 18 years old. Hey, look. original power steering pump, original alternator. The AC still works. Now, it's an East Coast car, so you see superficial rust like that, but it doesn't mean that much. This particular one was made in Ohio. Honda's been making cars in Ohio for decades and decades. They do a pretty good job building them in Ohio. This isn't something made in Mexico. No, it was built in Ohio. They still make them there in Ohio. They have made over 12.5 million Accords in Ohio. Good technology. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, you can get better gas mileage in newer ones, of course. But the level of technology in these is so low. Anybody can fix them when they break. They take a long time to break, but when they do break, they're so much simpler to fix. This battery, just a plain old battery. Everything on these things is simple. Braking system has a regular vacuum booster on it, not some kind of fancy computerized stuff. Even though it's another car, the wheels, the alloy wheels, are still in pretty good shape. And as we look at the undercarriage, still really solid. Honda knew how to build these things in Ohio. They're pretty well undercoated. They don't have rust problems. You notice you don't see all the paint coming off around the wheel wells. These things are solid built. No, a new one is $32,000 around here. I just looked it up. That was the cheapest one I could find. You paid $4,000 for this car? It's got 164,000 miles on it. Doesn't burn oil, runs good, chips good, right? Now, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not gonna buy a car with that kind of mileage. These cars, they hold up. Now, 5, 10 years from now, would I wanna buy a late model Honda with that kind of mileage? I would really think twice, because turbocharged GDI, CVT transmission, many of those things will break by then. They cost a fortune to repair. In a lot of cases, nobody really knows how to repair them. I often see guys try to repair CVT transmissions. They do a crappy job. They never work right in the first place. The old technology is known. People know how to work on them. You can buy one that has that kind of mileage because they last so long. The highest I've ever seen on an Accord was about 540,000 miles. I've read about ones that went 1 million miles and stuff, but the amount of mileage this thing has on it, being 18 years old, that's actually kind of low mileage. And there's ones out there that have even lower mileage if you can find them. Of course, they don't have the convenience of an SUV. This only has 2 doors, right? Oh my God, people actually have to pull the seat up and climb in the back seat. How inconvenient, you know? The interior, aside from a little dust, look, nothing's cracked. They don't build one like they used to. And look, a real parking brake, not that electronic crap. Still got the stock radio, everything on it works. Sunroof if you want, I personally think they're stupid. Millions of nice seat covers you can buy if you got a few tears in the seat covers. So let's get my big scan tool out, see how this thing hangs up. Old cars are a lot slower, so you gotta have patience with them. And as you can see, it's thinking away. It's read the VIN number, knows it's an Accord 07. Like I said, the older ones take a little bit of time because the computers aren't as fast in them. But still do a small topology scan, so that's what we're gonna do. You can see it has the obligatory little tree center. This is black ice. I didn't know that black ice has some type of smell. I thought black ice was just ice. It doesn't have any odor at all, but I guess you learn something every day. Like I said, it's an older car, takes a little bit longer. So finally it's found 3 trouble codes. Something this old, John, they're gonna find some things. Most of them probably won't mean much. And this is where if you have a mechanic check out a used car, he's got to be somebody who knows this stuff like me, because dishonest ones, they can show you, oh look, it's got these trouble codes. Oh, it's gonna cost a fortune to fix it. A lot of them don't mean anything. So we'll analyze these. Well, it's almost done. It hasn't found any more than the 3 yet. Now it's done, and as you can see, there's 3 trouble codes. So we'll start with the ECM. See what that is. In this case, the trouble codes are, like I say, it's a little slower on these older cars. That's just how it goes. Catalyst system below threshold. That's typical as they age. If the catalytic converter gets below like 95% efficiency, it trips the code. The cars could run perfectly fine. You can put a little catalytic converter cleaner in. A lot of times they'll help clean it out. But if your car runs okay, it really, I've had customers drive them 5 years that way. And one guy they did, after the 5th year, he brought it back and the light went off because he bought a different gas. He went to Shell instead of Exxon, and it stopped doing it because the gas burnt better. Time being, we'll erase these jobs. And it's got one more code, ABS, a lot of times they get a little wanky as they get old. Battery voltage failure, so we'll erase that one too. Now that's a typical problem. When your car gets old, the battery gets weak. They'll start tripping codes just because the battery is weak. You replace the battery. If you don't reset these codes, they'll stay in permanent memory, so we'll erase that too. It's old, so you gotta turn the ignition switch off, turn it back on. The new ones, you don't have to do that. And so now that's gone, so we'll start her up and we'll look at live data. So we'll go back to ECM. Remember, black is good, red's bad. Here we go. Now we'll start looking at stuff. Notice it's all black. MAF sensor's good. Now look, here's the airflow lambda. 1 is perfect. It goes between 0.9998 and 1. Almost perfect or off 1/100th. You can't complain about a car that's got that kind of mileage on it. Oh, the battery's putting out plenty of voltage. See, everything's black, everything's working. Now, you'll often see this max engine speed. It'll show 0, and that's just a software flaw. It has nothing to do with how the thing's running. So don't be fooled by data that's bad. And we can see misfires, zeros across the board, pulses from the cam and crank are fine. That mileage, hey, 18 years, idles like a dream. Now it looks to me as if this thing still has the original struts on it. Everything looks totally original, and for original struts, we're going over these horrible Rhode Island bumpy roads. It's not bad. I can see they're worn a little. It does bounce more than normal, but it's totally drivable. It's not like you're losing control. And here we go. We'll give it a little gas. Honda engine. Smooth shifting. The engine sounds great. They know how to make engines. At least they used to know how to make engines. And this one is no exception to the rule. This engine doesn't burn oil. Still gets 30-something miles a gallon on the highway. Hey, it's an excellent car for $4,000. No problem pulling in front of people. We didn't even have to give it full gas. Like I said, they don't make them like they used to. If you can find one like this, no rust, runs this good for $4,000, my advice is stamp it up. Even if you don't need a car, you can sell it to somebody else for more money, or find somebody who really needs a car and they'll really be happy to take it off your hands. Sometimes he says it gets a little shaking at highway speeds, and people told them it might be the axle, so we're gonna go back in and jack it up and check that out. Let's jack it up in here and check this one first to see if anything's wobbling. No, there's no play. Spin it around. Tire's fine. He's already had them check the balance and stuff on it. So we'll look underneath. They said there might be a problem with the drive shaft. Well, the inside looks good, but there's no rips or tears on this thing. Yeah, there's a little bit of play on the inner CV joint. Let's check the other side. That inner joint has a little play. Doesn't have any play either. Tire's not out around. Now it looks to me that this one has been replaced in the past. Around here you see all this corrosion on the transmission. That's totally normal because it's aluminum and aluminum pits from the salt on the road. And this lived in Indiana, now it's in Rhode Island. This is totally normal. It's nothing to worry about. As long as the steel parts are good like this, it's not a problem with rust. This is just normal corrosion. It's not something I'd worry. There's nothing that needs to be done anytime in the near future, really. If you're an absolute fanatic, yeah, you could change the drive shaft and have the tires rebalanced and the alignment rechecked by a pro. Because a lot of times I see them getting shaking like that, 55, 60, 65, they don't. And it's either the alignment's off or the balance is wrong. And guys that do that stuff often don't do such a great job anymore. They're all young kids on machines. They just follow what the machine says, and sometimes the software to the machine is wrong, so they align it wrong, and it's going to do something like that. It's nothing to worry about. It's no biggie. But if you want to talk about saving big money, and let's say instead of living in Rhode Island, you lived in Massachusetts, this baby's 18 years old. It doesn't need testing for emissions anymore. So if anything goes wrong with the stupid emission system, you can continue to drive it just like in Tennessee where they have no emissions testing at all. It's a big advantage to buying a good, solid built old car. It's going to be cheaper to insure. It's going to be cheaper to repair, and it's going to need less repairs because there's a lot of things that you won't have to fix because you're not having to go through one of those stupid emissions testing because the car is grandfathered. Unfortunately, he's in Rhode Island, so he's got to wait till it's 25 years old. Still got to wait a few years for that, but check your local laws when you're going to buy something like this. You might be really surprised the money you're going to save, the less headaches you're going to have, and have a nice car to drive around with that only costs $4,000. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.